while people still are entering, I want to say thank you very much for being here. Actually, since we started this talk, this is the place where I wanted to give this session the most. Because I know that you use a lot Maven, and most of the contributions that are coming to Maven are coming from this area.
From the Netherlands.
From the Netherlands. Honestly, if you see the statistics, it's amazing. So you are the audience that we always wanted to have. So saying that I'm super excited, it's selling it short, really.
Well, on the other hand, we'll see how it goes, because probably this is going to be a very interactive session.
Yes.
And hopefully we'll give you some surprises and so new contents, new things that you never heard. But if you are all Maven experts, then probably you're going to teach us some lessons.
Well, I'm Ix-chel Ruiz. I'm from Mexico. I live in Switzerland. I'm a Java champion. I work for JFrog. I collaborate with a lot of open source foundations. And my last contributions to books was DevOps tools for Java developers, and I also contribute to 99 things you should know as a Java developer.
My name is Almiray. I also come from Mexico, living in Switzerland. Ix-chel and I, we both love working in open source, and we travel around the world. Speaking about the experiences that we have had, and we love to share that information with as many people as we can. So that's the reason why we're here. And the session that we come up today is based on those lessons learned hard at work when we used to be consultants trying to figure out why the project was not compiling correctly.
And also one of the really important things is we developers, we want to, I would say, have fun and everything like that, but at the end of the day is use the tools that you're comfortable with, use them with proficiency. And the tools that I like to work with are the ones that are predictable, automatic, reliable, and follow conventions. So that's why most of our sessions are about tools. What are the best tools out there that you can leverage in very, very interesting ways to make your life, our lives, very useful, very simple. So let's go to talk about build tools. And why Maven? Well, Maven, it's still one of the most popular in terms. I work for JFrog, so this is information about all our clients and public and private repositories. As you can see, the Maven repositories, and it is huge. So it's still very, very popular.
So quick show of hands, who uses Maven as the main build tool? You see, it's like 80% of you.
Well, the session is called Maven Puzzler, so self-selected.
Just have to ask.
No, but when we ask this kind of question, even when people are using Gradle, we always remind them. If you're using, for example, Spring Boot, if you're using Quarkus, if you're using other frameworks, you're still consuming POM files.
Right, because at the end of the day, when we define in our build tools, Gradle, Maven, SBT, Lineagen, whatever it is, we consume a POM XML because that is, right now, the de facto standard for defining how to locate artifacts given the gap coordinates. So regardless if you use Maven as your main build tool, if some one of your teammates or some other person uses Gradle, they still have to consume that POM file. And the way that that POM file is written will force consumers to work with those dependencies in one way or another. And depending on the problems that they encounter trying to do dependency resolution and trying to get rid of what is known as the class-path dependency hell, they might need to apply certain techniques or some other things, or eventually try to fix the POM file upstream. But that we'll see in just a moment.
But as you saw in the statistics and different developer reports that we showed, Maven is still the most useful, directly and indirectly. So that's why we like to talk about Maven. And one of the things that probably, because you have built your projects, you have noticed that working with dependencies it's sometimes a little bit problematic. And this actually pictures the dependency hell and how do I feel when I see an exception. Like, why is this happening? And suddenly, it's dependency hell because it's a dependency resolution hell.
So who has encountered a class not found exception? when trying to run a test, right? Or there is a, I don't even recall what is the name because I hate it. It's like a method signature not found error, right? Just because the class path, the class is different than what you were expecting. And there's things like this. There's even linkage error because something that was supposed to be there isn't because something completely different is, right? And these are the things that just drive us crazy because things are supposed to work and they don't.
And the problem is that we have some assumptions and they are not backed up by our class path. And that's when that incongruency is the one that kills us. So I have a question for you. After doing a Git clone, you are joining a new team, a new code base. You have your machine in front of you, and you do Git clone your project. You have a fresh, very fresh code base, and it's a Maven project. What do? What command do you actually use?
I mean, if you're doing Maven clean install,
I'm not going to let him
the door
talk.
is over there. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm not going to let him talk about that particular.
So here's a little bit of a rant. And I mean, most of you know about Maven Verify, right? See some hands? Yes? Yes, exactly. See? Netherlands knows Maven. So as you know, Maven runs through the Maven lifecycle. And there are many phases in the default lifecycle. There are many, and if you want to create your own lifecycle, that's a very advanced Maven stuff, but we don't want to do it right now. So there is the main lifecycle that Maven goes through, and the white ones are kind of like the most well-known phases, so test, compile, package, install. But see, what happens before install is the verify phase, and Maven goes in sequence. So every time you're doing install, you, as a matter of fact, are invoking the verify phase without even knowing.
Before. But this is a really good audience. So let's ask them, what is the difference between verify and install? Why would you stop at verify and don't go further into install? Yes?
Because you don't want to make an artifact in your own repo, or your local repo.
Exactly.
Exactly.
The only responsibility for install is to copy the artifacts that had just been built or are part of the reactor and copy them into our local Maven repository. That's the only thing. Everything else that happens as part of the build has been done by the phases that occurred before. So verify most of the times will do the right thing for you. There are some plugins that may require using install. And if that is the case, there's maybe for two reasons. A, it's too old, or B, it has a bug on it. So if you do Maven verify and things break, good. Good in the sense that please file a bug so that the Maven team can fix it. Bad for you because, well, you have to go back to install. Yep, so there's still a workaround. Just try verify first. And that's the end of my rant, because otherwise I will be here for like 3 hours.
So the entire session, it's about the not happy paths. The not happy paths is like, what happens if we have a dependency with different versions at different levels of the dependency graph? So that's why you are here, and that's why we are going to try to test.
Okay, so Brian and Bergen asked you in the morning if you have the smartphone. Most of you say yes. So now you'll be encouraged to take out your smartphone.
Yes.
And tweet if you want to. But this is an interactive quiz. There will be a series of questions that we're going to ask. First, there are going to be
14.
So there will be 4 warm-up questions, very easy ones. And then we're going to test you in using 14 questions separated in 3 sections. And everything we're going to ask has happened for real in production.
Yes.
Okay?
It's not scanning? Yeah. Okay.
Or you can go to menti.com and the code will always be there in case that the QR code no longer is displayed.
Menti, and they use the code, that is going to be there all the time. So,
First question.
How do you install Maven? SDK man. I like it. Homebrew, manually, order. Okay, so this is my call for SDK man. If you're not using it, please consider using it, except if you are using Windows, and then the question is another one, why are you using Windows? But if you are not using Windows and you're still in the same part of the planet, I totally recommend you to have a look. Why? Well, a part that it actually manages your version is because, for example, if you're also using Java, which it's probably that's the case, you can even have a different version of Java per terminal window. How cool is that?
Right.
It's the same with, sorry, it was the same with Maven and all the
right,
other.
So for all of you that have selected installing Maven manually, what do? You have to locate the zip file. So there's an URL when you can download it, unzip it, then put it in some directory, configure your path, off you go. And there's the next version of Maven. You do the same and the same and the same. Now, the whole point of package managers is to automate these things. And the other advantage of package managers is that easy to upgrade or downgrade versions. There are some package managers like SDK Man that can allow you to have concurrent versions, different versions of the same tool within different terminals or in a global space. So that's why we say if you want to go with a package manager, then SDK is probably the best choice.
The next question that you are already answering is what version of Maven are you using so far?
So 3.9.2 is the latest. I think that a vote for 3.9.3 will go out very soon. Although there actually, I could say there are 3 major versions of Maven that you could run today. 3.9.2 is the latest, most modern. 3.88 is the most conservative one. And 4.0 Alpha 5 is the most advanced version of Maven, which has broken a few things for good reasons. We're breaking binary compatibility because it's a major version, right? So I'm very happy to see that there are a lot of people in 3.9.2, good, but there are also a lot of people in 3.6.3. At the very least, if you cannot upgrade to 3.9, because some plugins have seen breakages because there have been some upgrades in the APIs. Try to upgrade to 3.8.8 as soon as you can. And if you are way earlier than 3.6.3, you're just making yourselves open to attacks and vulnerability problems. I know some companies cannot upgrade for reasons, but if you as much as you can, try to be at latest versions of Maven.
Do you use the Maven wrapper? Actually, the first question is, Andres, what is the Maven wrapper?
What is the Maven wrapper? We see it's almost half-half. Okay, so the Maven wrapper is a script that allows you to download or provision a version of Maven that works in your project. I mean, what would be the reason to do this? I mean, those of you that are young enough don't recall that in the past, when we just started doing CI/CD, we had to call the IT person and say, hey, what's up? I need this version of Maven installed on that particular server. Can you do it? Yeah, sure, why not? 3 months later, he will install Maven and it was the wrong version. Right? Nowadays, we just need to have feedback, very, very quick feedback. And how we can do this? By ensuring that our CI environment has everything set up, everything is ready. One of the things that we need is to have the right version of the tools to do the job. With the Maven wrapper, you can say, I want to use version 3.9.2 of Maven with this project. And when it's checked out, you invoke the Maven wrapper, which will detect if it has that version of Maven available in your system. If it doesn't, it will download it and then continue the build.
It will download it from a specific URL, so you can actually create that URL. Or
if you need your custom Maven distribution, you can do it.
And even inside your organization. This doesn't have to go outside of your organization. So you are certified, or in a way, making it easier because that your development environment is something that it remains under your control. So less assume, less guessing, and the trust is actually in the right place.
There's another reason to do this, and that will be part of the answers in the coming questions.
Maven daemon.
Do you know what the Maven daemon is? Clearly, only one person knows what the daemon is.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay, so when you run a Java program, regardless of what program it is, this is what you do. You kickstart the VM, run the application, the program where it is, and then the VM dies, right? The next time you run the program, what happens? VMs again, which takes some time, run the program, then just throw the VM again into the garbage. That's sad, because if this is a long-running process, the VM has already been primed, it's JIT, everything is ready, and just to be thrown back and not reused, it's not a really good idea. So what if we were able to keep that VM alive?
But in the background.
And reuse it. So that's exactly what the daemon does. The daemon runs the VM on the first time. You have to pay the price at the beginning, then run the application, and before it dies, the VM goes into the background, in a background thread, actually in the background process. So the next time you invoke Maven, then this startup will be much, much faster. So if you have encountered, yeah, that's Ix-chel in Japan. If you have encountered slow builds with Maven, one of the things that you can try is use the Maven daemon.
Yes, that's Mario Kart in Japan. It
Yeah,
is awesome.
on the street. That's something that happens.
Okay, so again, this is when we start. And when we said that it actually works, is because we are running Maven dependency tree, and that's going to be the version that is going to be resolved. That's how we calculate the right version. So that's what we are saying, as that's the command that we're invoking.
By the way, I will assume that most of you know what this thing is. That is invocation of a plugin goal. That is not an invocation of a lifecycle phase.
Because it wasn't on the graph that we show. Remember?
All right?
So that's a plugin.
Okay. First question.
Okay, so this is our POM file. It's very simple. We're going to use Guava, and we are going to try to figure out what is the version. So this is super simple. POM file, and I'm saying Guava 27, and after that, I'm saying Guava 28.
So we're going to use Guava not just because we like it, it's just because it's so prevalent, it's so easy to find it in many places. And if there is an error, it's not because of Guava. I would love if that was the case, but no. So the problems that we encounter, they may happen for any kind of dependency, not just Guava.
Okay, build error. So who here is using Maven 4?
So based on the previous question, no one was using Maven 4.
Yeah, well, actually, no.
Okay,
nobody.
so raise your hand if you're using Maven 4.
Even for tests, you have done it at least once.
Not a single one.
My God.
Amazing. Okay.
Okay, we will not criticize.
All right, okay. So for the 28% of you that said build error, you would be correct if you were using Maven 4, but none of you said or admitted you were using Maven 4, all right? So this is an error in Maven 4, is a warning in Maven 3.
But at the end, it's going to be 28, that one. Now, I want you to tell me why it was 28. Don't get me wrong. I wanted it to be a build error. I really wanted it, because when I told Andres, like, I'm not making sense. I'm saying two things at the same time. So maybe I should say, Ix-chel, make up your mind, for crying out loud. Do you want 27? Do you want 28?
Raise your hand and you say, yep. So raise your hand if 28 is the winner because it's greater than 27. Semantic versioning, right? Raise your hand if 28 wins because that was the last version defined in the POM file. Exactly. Yep. That's the reason why it wins.
Based on position. So if somebody goes now and edit your POM file and decides to swap those entries,
if they put 27 later, which version is going to win?
27.
Does that make sense?
So isn't that actually it makes sense? But now you are going to add a comment and saying, please do not change the entries of your POM
do
file.
not reformat the POM. Do not sort it. There are actually two plugins to sort entries in a POM file, and those plugins can sort dependencies, in which case you might get a different class path. Be careful.
So apart from introducing all your developers to those rules, how do you solve this?
Well, the first case is move to Maven 4. That becomes an error.
It's going to be an error.
If you are still using Maven 3, then please have a look at the Maven Enforcer plugin, lovingly known as the loving iron fist of Maven. Because if there is one thing you take out from this session is, do configure the Maven Enforcer plugin, and that is going to break your build, boom, quickly. And that's what you want, because it's very likely that your build has some issues, and the Maven Enforcer plugin will bubble them up to the surface so that we can really deal with them.
So in this case, I totally recommend you to configure this particular rule. Ban duplicate POM dependency versions. Because honestly, it didn't make sense. I was saying, I need 27 and I need 28. Make up your mind, Ix-chel.
Right, so this upgrades that warning into a build error.
So now, as you see, we get the error and saying, oops, oops.
Is this only direct dependencies or is this including transitive?
This is only for direct dependencies. We'll get into transitives in a moment.
Don't worry, we will get there.
Oh yeah, we'll get there.
Good. Let's go back to
the quiz. There we go. So the second question, here we go.
The second question, okay.
We have a direct dependency, Guava, as before.
28. Yes, in our POM file, and the dependencies block, we have 28, and we have truth, 113.
Which so happens to bring Guava as a transitive dependency, a different version. I think it's 30.11 Android or something like that.
So see, here is like, so what's going to happen? So we have a direct dependency and a transient one, and the transient one is Guava 30.1.1 Android. So who is going to win? What?
Transitive.
Transitive. Transitive.
Okay, so build error, I know that is Brian selecting that. Okay, so close to 70% of you has said 28. But 28 is not the last one. But still, is that the correct option? It is the correct option.
Because direct dependencies always win against any transitive dependency. It doesn't matter what the position in the POM they actually are.
A direct dependency is that one that has the explicit version, and if we could put them, switch them the other way around, and 28 will still win.
Okay.
So again, kind of makes sense, but doesn't, because there's version 31.1 Android, which is bigger and later than 28. What's going on with semantic versioning? Does semantic versioning matter?
Well, we actually, and if you don't know, if you don't use semantic versioning in your projects, I totally exhort you to do it. And we actually had that question, and we actually asked Robert at that time. He was still the PMC.
The Maven PMC chair.
Yes.
So back in March of 2020, more than 3 years ago, he said, well, Maven doesn't care about the version number. It only cares about the position of the dependency within the graph. And the nearest and closest to where you are resolving the thing, so your consumer POM is the one that is going to get selected. If that is the latest version, that is a coincidence. If that happens to be a much earlier version, we might be screwed.
So again, the Enforcer plugin can help us a little bit. Dependency convergence.
When we activate this rule, then the Enforcer plugin will tell us, hey, look, you have 2 different versions of the same dependency, group ID, artifact ID. This might be a problem. You definitely want to have a look at this. So when we activate that rule, look, not only Guava triggers, but also the transitive dependencies brought by Guava, which were not apparent before.
Yeah. So it is important that we start adding those rules, activating, and reading the warnings, and obviously paying attention to the errors.
And these rules can be quite verbose, And it's been known for some people said, yeah, at the beginning I configured Enforcer, and they gave us a lot of information, and then that's a lot of information, and we don't want to go through it, so we turn them off. Now we don't know what's going on with our builds. Come on, those warnings exist for a reason. But here's another rule that you can have, which is require upper bounds. And this rule...
Yes, for those that really think that semantic versioning is a good thing, this can provide that kind of logic into your project.
It would have been better if the name of that rule was just agree on semantic versioning or something like that, but the name is require upper bounds, which doesn't say semantic versioning, but that is semantic versioning, pretty much.
So in this case, it's telling you, you know what? You have 27 and you have 30. So you need to reach a conclusion here, because I'm going to make a decision, and probably it's not the one that you're thinking. So at least it's telling you, this is a potential problem. Make up your mind.
Right. OK, so next question.
Next question. OK, we will go back to, sorry. Yeah, wait a second. OK, new one. We have the dependency management block, new block.
Who knows what the dependency management block is? OK, almost
everybody. Perfect. So this question is going to be super simple. On the dependency management block, we have 27, and we are adding on the dependency block the Google Truth, which has 30.
As a transitive dependency. OK, so when we resolve dependencies here, which version is going to be selected? Is it going to be the one from dependency management? Build error.
Build error.
Interesting. Come on, dude. So, no. This is the same result with Maven 4. This POM file works. There is no build error. So here's the question: is it going to be the transitive version, or is it going to be the one from dependency management?
My God, we are very close. Like we are very close. This is not a definite answer.
Right, but the correct answer is 27.
Why?
Because dependency management block works like if it were a lookup table. So whenever Maven goes and resolve dependencies, if there is a dependency management block, says you have defined this group ID and this artifact ID, so Google Guava and
27.
Guava artifact ID, right? So, and it's a version 27 associated with it. Good, I'm going to remember that. And continues parsing the graph and encounters Guava as a transitive dependency, which doesn't have an explicit version. Why? Because it's transitive. In this case, Maven says, oh, these two things match, so I'm going to discard whatever version is coming in transitive form, and I'm going to grab the one that is defined explicitly in the dependency management block. And this will happen anywhere in the graph where there is no explicit version of Guava. That's the reason why 27 wins.
OK, new question. This is a little bit similar. So we have the dependency management block, 27. In the dependency block, we have 28, and our transitive.
Right, so the only thing that we did from the previous example was add a direct dependency. So, Brian says build error. Does anyone agree with Brian? No?
So who's going to win? 27, 28, 30? Who knows? Who gives more?
OK, no one has chosen the transitive. Good. Because now we are debating, is it going to be the direct one, or is it going to be the one from the dependency management block? But remember what I said just a few moments ago. The version in the dependency management block will win as long as there's no explicit matching version. We have an explicit matching version, 28. Is direct, 28 wins.
OK, so direct dependencies always win.
No matter what.
Perfect.
Right.
Now we're going to make the things a little bit more interesting. We're going to add use and truth. Use brings Guava, version 30 without Android. So now both are 30. The question is going to be Android or not Android, but anyway.
So the interesting bit is that you have two direct dependencies, or could be two direct dependencies, use and truth. Both of them have Guava as a transitive, one hop away, the same distance. The important bit is that they are the same distance. If it were to be different, the closest one will win immediately. But because it's the same, things will look different. Right. So we know
now,
there's going to be a version coming from Juice 31 JRE, and this is 31.1 Android. Which version wins?
What is going to happen?
Build error.
I did not put build error. Not again.
All right. This I like, because I'm happy to say that 65 for you are wrong.
Why? Why?
If you recall the first question, the last one won, right?
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense in the transitive ones. If they are the same distance, this will win, right?
Because it
it's
was the
one.
last defined. We said the position matters, and it was the last one. It was not the version number.
But turns out,
It's totally on the opposite direction. Direct dependencies is the last one. Transient dependencies is the first one.
the first one that was found that is closest. Does that make sense?
Of course it makes sense. Yes. Question.
What happens if we switch?
What happened to convention? So why not do the same thing every time?
That's exactly what I'm asking. Does this make sense? It doesn't make sense to apply some rules for direct and some other rules for the transitive. Now, here's when I'm also going to do a mind blown on you. If I switch this over, put truth first, Juice second, then 59% of you will be correct.
So it's actually the position. But the rule that I gave you at the beginning only is for direct dependencies. And you think the opposite for transitive dependencies.
Okay, so here we go with the last question of the block.
Oh, sorry. Well, it's the same one, but let me show you.
So same example as before, but we added our friend, the dependency management block. That's the only difference.
So what happens now? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go back.
There. So what happens? We have in the dependency management 28. This we will see that it's 30.
And we did a switch, by the way.
Yes.
First it was Juice, second truth. Now we put them the other way around. And interesting. I'm happy to say that, wow, build error again. What? No, there's no build error. And so I'm glad to say that 83% of you are correct.
Yes.
Because Guava is transitive. No explicit version of Guava. Thus, dependency management block wins. Things are very easy when we deal with just one POM file, right? What happens when we add more?
Yeah, so we are going to do multi-project builds with parent POMs.
So as you know, every POM file inherits behavior from another POM file. Sometimes you see this inheritance laid out or spelled out explicitly with a parent block in a POM file, and sometimes you don't see it, but yet there is still one parent POM file that every single Maven build has. This is the Maven Super POM. The Maven Super POM is the one that says you can have just group ID, artifact ID version and still build a Java project and create a jar file. Why? Because there's default behavior coming from the Super POM, plugins and some stuff, right? That's the only thing that it does. This Maven Super POM is explicitly tied to the version of Maven that you're using. So if you're building today with 3.6.3, you get your build results. And if you build with 3.9.2, some of those plugin versions may have been updated. So your build will be different. If you're thinking about reproducible builds, these two things are not reproducible if you switch just the build tool. You didn't change anything about your build file. Just upgraded Maven, and your build is no longer reproducible. For this reason, it's important to use the wrapper to say, I need this version of Maven, because that brings that Maven Super POM, but also specify every single plugin version that you want to use in your build.
So this is when we say, start removing the assumptions and be more sure of what you are actually using in your development environment. So, as Andres said, even as small or this simple POM, it's actually not the simple POM. When the effective POM is resolved, it is more, because there is a super POM that you don't have control over. and it's doing something in your build.
Okay, so here we have a parent POM file that defines an explicit version, and we have a child or consumer POM that declares this one as a parent, and it brings a truth that we know for a fact that has Guava as a transitive version. Okay. So when we resolve these dependencies from the point of view of the child, what do we get? Do we get 28 from the parent?
Okay. In the dependency block of the parent, 28. In the dependency block of the children or the child, we have a transient with 30.
Okay, so versions, we see, well, we already got the answer. you click enter.
Yes, I click enter.
Okay, so what's going on? Because of how hierarchy works, Maven reads first the child POM and says, oh, you have a parent section. Good. I'm going to find that parent given the coordinates and parse it. Finds the parent, goes through it, and it says, oh, you don't have a parent. But I know for a fact that you depend on the Maven super POM. So it reads the Maven super POM. And in the super POM, it finds basic setup, properties, and plugins. So it grabs that information and copies over into what is known the effective POM. This is what Maven actually uses to build your project. Then goes back into the parent and continues the parsing. See, oh, you have a direct dependency, puts it on the effective POM, and it's done. And comes into the child and says, oh, you have a transitive dependency, and I put it there. So in our effective POM, we have Maven coordinates, direct dependency, transitive dependency. We've seen this use case before. It was question number 2. Which one wins? Direct dependency. So that's what 28 wins.
Okay, next example. So now the parent POM has a dependency management block and a direct dependency. And then in the child, we also have a dependency block with a transitive one. Okay.
So which version is going to win? It's going to be 26 from dependency management. It's going to be 28 from direct dependency. It's going to be 30x because it's transitive, or is Brian going to select build error again?
So, okay. For the one that selected 30, I am sorry to say that when you have a direct dependency, it's already lost. They already lost the race there. So the right answer is 28. Why is 28?
Because when we resolve the effective POM, when you put everything together, you have a dependency management block, a direct dependency, and a transitive dependency. Direct dependency still wins no matter what. We've seen this, I think it was question number 4, so that's why 28 wins.
Next question.
We have dependency management block on the parent, and we have the transitive dependency on the child. So, who's going to win? 26, 30, or build error? Okay. So 92% of you are correct. There are no other things played here, so the dependency management block is going to win.
Yes.
The last one, the last question for this section is, we have dependency management block on the parent, and we have a dependency management block on the child. When we do the resolution, are we going to get version 26 from the parent, or version 28 from the child, or version 30? So, what do you think? Or is this a build error because we have 2 dependency management blocks? This is not a build error. This works.
So we have 2 entries in the dependency management. Well, it seems like we have 2 entries in the dependency management block due to the parent and due to the child.
Just recall how the effective POM rules work. We go first from the child all the way parents, grandparents, onto the super POM, and then goes back. So on the way back, we encounter the dependency management block from the parent first, and that says version 26. Then we move into the child, and we have a dependency management block, same coordinates, the child overrides the parent. That's why the version from the child, 28, is the one that wins.
Okay, and we need to go faster because it's already there. So we're going to talk about
the last 4 questions.
The last, and they're really easy. So we're going to talk about the bombs.
Does anyone know what a bomb bill of material is? Okay, good. So you use Quarkus, Spring, Micronaut, right? JUnit, Jackson, all these projects have BOM files. A BOM is just a POM file that uses the dependency management block like this to list a bunch of dependencies that go together. There is no official nomenclature for the types of BOMs, where you can think of two BOMs. One, which is like the library BOM, that defines all the projects that belong together. JUnit and Jackson are good examples of such BOMs. They only list things about JUnit or Jackson. Spring Boot and Quarkus and Macron and the others, they are stack BOMs, because not only do they bring their own dependencies, Spring whatever, they also bring JUnit and Jackson and test containers and everything else. So with this, you are ensured that whoever crafted that BOM file has determined all those dependencies can work together with those versions.
Nicely. So what you are going to see is in the dependency management block, it's going to be all the suggestions of what are the versions of the different dependencies that you can use, and it will actually work.
And when you consume a BOM, regardless of its type, library or stack, you have to put them inside a dependency management block, and you have to add two additional XML elements. One is the import scope, and second is type POM, because the packaging of a BOM file is also POM. There is no jar associated with a BOM file. If we were to skip type POM, then Maven will think, oh, you have a jar file that I have to download, but that doesn't exist, so I'm going to crash.
So what is going to be? Yeah, it's actually correct.
That is correct.
Yes, because actually these two are bringing Guava transient, and you have in the dependency management 28, so the two transient doesn't win, or well, they go into the dependency management block and say, what's the one that I should use? And the answer is correct.
That's
28.
why the name, the scope is named import. It is as we're importing every definition from the BOM file in the dependency management block into the place that we are consuming. It is as if that dependency management block was written here in the effective POM.
Okay, now an interesting case. We're only adding the transitive dependency to that one with truth. We have in the dependency management block 26, and in there as a direct dependency 28.
And we consume the BOM file in the same way. So we have some choices. Is it going to be version 26 because it's dependency management? Is it going to be 28 because it's direct? Or is it going to be 30 because it's 30?
Sorry, guys, 80% of the room is totally wrong. Why? Because I told you, we use the dependency management block, only the dependency.
It's the most important XML element in a BOM file. Everything else is ignored. It doesn't matter. So if you have direct dependencies, if you have plugins, anything else in your BOM file, when you consume them, they do not exist from the point of view of the consumer. All right? So next one, we have dependency management here because we have a BOM, and then we imported. We have a direct dependency here also, and we know there's coming a transitive. So the question is going to be version 28?
It's not a direct dependency. It's in the dependency management.
It's an explicit dependency. It's an explicit dependency. It's not a direct one. Yeah.
Yeah. So now the parent, the BOM file saying 28. Here we have 26, and the transient. I can tell you the transitive is not going to win. I can tell you that already.
So is it going to win the one from the BOM, or is it going to be the explicit one? Well, it so happens that, yeah, the transitive one is not it. But it so happens that 26 is the one to be chosen. Why? Because it's explicit. Even if you put 26 earlier than the import, or after, as in this case, 26 will continue to win over. All right, so last example. The last question is, we still have the dependency management block on the BOM file, and now we have a direct explicit dependency here. Which one is going to win? Okay, if you guys were paying attention, and yes, you were, the correct answer continues to be the direct and explicit dependency. All right.
Yes.
We're done with the questions.
So the most important thing is direct dependencies win. Sadly, position matters. That's very risky. So to have a really good experience about this, to really trust your tool, please consider using semantic versioning for your own projects, and definitely use the Maven Enforcer plugin.
Yeah, right after this session, well, after you enjoy drinks and chatting, go and configure your Maven Enforcer plugin. Break your build and tell your teammates, this is fine. We're going to fix it tomorrow.
And, well, there is the link for the repository. It's not there. I totally removed that
all the
slide.
examples are available in that repository, and you can try everything if you want to.
Yeah, and then the slides are also going to be available for you.
So with that, we thank you so much for your time. I think this is the last slot for JSpring. We love to be here again in the Netherlands with you guys. Hope you have enjoyed the conference. Hope to see you again soon.
And I was going to exhort you to, we're going to change this session, this talk, because we want to bring more topics. So we were talking already about bringing the project reactor.
Other things. So if you have any ideas, suggestions or other interesting puzzles that you have encountered, whether it's dependency related or not, just let us know. We're always available. We're happy to talk to people. And there was one more thing that I want to say that I just forgot. So thank you.